Hi there. I hope you're having a good start to the summer. And today I wanted to talk a little bit more about a topic I've done something about in the past, about type and mistype, but this time it's personal. And the reason being, I've been called a couple different mistypes over time I've been called 9 different mistypes, but there are 3 that kind of stick. And those 3 are interesting to me, so I'd like to call them out and see, I wouldn't say refute them, but discuss them a bit further and why I believe people might think so and why they're not correct in my point of view. A couple of preambles are necessary for that. First, there's a difference, as I've said a couple of videos ago, between neurology and cognition and identity. MBTI, unfortunately, kind of mixes the two in a blender. Here, I want to talk exclusively about neurology and cognition. So when someone says, if someone were to say, I'm an ISFP, I'm looking exclusively at they're saying that I lead with introverted feeling and then supported by extroverted sensing and so forth. I'm not looking at the 16 personalities write-ups, for example, that, you're a special artistic person who does these particular things and does those things. Though behaviors do play into the discussion we'll have, it's about the wiring. The second piece related to that is that I do take discussions where people challenge my type as wiring questions. So when someone says, I'm an ISFJ, then to me it's like being told that I'm right-handed, not left-handed, or that I've got hazel eyes and not brown eyes. It isn't anything that shatters my world. It's just sort of like, you're telling me I've got the wrong wiring diagram. Well, let me evaluate that and see whether I need to switch diagrams. It's not, unless it's clearly and overtly an attack on me, trying to undermine my own identity, like intentionally, it's not a big deal to me. Unfortunately, that's not the case with a lot of other people. So when I bump into other folks beyond this community where I think that they're a different type than they think they are, I keep my mouth shut. And that's, I believe, the right thing to do, because what do I know about them and their lives? And even if I had a strong supposition, the default is that people are sensitive and see MBTI as an identity, whereas for me, it's, have at it. And again, as long as it's above board, people are telling me what they truly believe, we can have a discussion about it so I can understand, I can learn some things from it, then, we're cool. It's good. So the 3 types that people most often say that I am and how it's refutable. ENFP, ISFJ, and INFJ. ENFP is probably the one that personally hits me closest, because if I did not believe I have the Fi+Ne INFP wiring, I think I'd be either an ENFP, that's what I first mistyped myself as 30 years ago, more than 30 years ago, and ISTJ. The reason I don't see ENFP fitting is actually pretty easy. That any lead Fi auxiliary, when I see it, it looks like the advocate archetype. It naturally falls into a role of pushing out that Fi judging to tell other people what's morally correct. The same way that an ENTP pushes out their TI judging to tell other people what is objectively correct. So ENFPs tend to be more about, here's my political views, here are my religious perspectives, my moral points of view. They're the ones that tell you to save the whales, or whatever their kind of conclusions are. They tell you what you should believe morally and why. And that's sort of the role that ENFPs easily fall into. Contrast that with the INFP, which some people have pointed out to frustration, will not tell you what to believe. In fact, present to you a bunch of stuff and then leave it up to you to figure out what the heck they want you to do. There's like no instructions included. So taking this analogy further, the ENFP tells you to save the whales. The INFP says, here are whales. Here's what whales are like. Here's some of the things that are interesting about whales. Here's what makes them important. Whales are under threat, and potentially saving them would be an option. And what? So I see it may be an incorrect self-image, but I see myself much more falling into that category of presenting a lot of information and then just leaving it up to the viewer or the reader to figure out for themselves what's the correct answer. Because if someone wants to go out harpooning whales, I shouldn't be the one to tell them what they may or may not do. It's not my right. I just can present to them what information is there, and then hope that they come to a conclusion that's similar to mine. So for those reasons, I don't believe that I'm an ENFP. And there are others, but that's the primary. Why I am not an ISFJ? Well, ISFJ, I think, from viewers, is the best, closest. I can see where people would say ISFJ, and I would even agree with them potentially, because there are a ton of YouTubers who are ISFJs who present themselves as INFPs. Again, not in our direct community. I follow like more than 100 different YouTube channels. A lot of them I just lurk, but it's to observe type behaviors and just learn to understand the differences between behaviors, and I just like to do it with MBTI channels. So ISFJ, people who believe that, they see the SI, so that's really good. Third slot SI versus first slot, easily mistaken. So I like that. The next piece is that they don't see much NE going on. And that's true for the INFJ theory as well. People don't see a lot of NE for a reason. It's because of this. It's a monologue to a camera. If I were to start talking about international travel and bicycles and ballpoint pens and power supplies, and then go back to ballpoint pens and sunglasses, and if I were to just jump around randomly, this would not be an effective monologue. People would not be able to follow the thread. Instead, there's also the fact that NE is forced through the lens of Fi. This is similar to an INTP, where there might be a lot of ideation going on, but it's exposed to the withering lens of Ti, and through that objective, introverted thinking, you end up with the end result, which is ideation filtered through what is objectively correct. So here you have ideation that's filtered through the lens of what feels right. I don't want to say morally correct because I'm not a moral arbiter, but what feels like the right thing to say, the right decision, the right choice. So because of that, NE doesn't get much of a chance to play, and Fi plus NE can look a little bit like FE, especially if you follow what I say in the comments, where it looks like I'm very much trying to say and do the right things, to be good to people and to be understanding and sympathetic. So yes, that looks like FE, but there's two parts to that. One is that I'm genuinely interested and concerned about people, and I'm not just saying what I say for the sake of saying it, but also that I know what it's like to say hurtful things or bad things, and I don't want people to feel badly. So I try to navigate what is the most correct thing to say from a feelings standpoint. And for that reason, writing comments can take me some time. And sometimes I let things sit for a while and let it cook for a while until I understand what it is that I want to respond with. So ISFJ, I would say, is a really good guess, and so good that I'd even considered, should I get onto a one-on-one interview with other people so that they could see a Dulles in interaction, not just a Dulles in monologues or the one typing session that I've got from years back. And I've decided against that for now and maybe permanently, just because that's not my shtick. And people usually do that sort of thing for more views, and I don't want to do promotional stuff. So I'm afraid that unless there's a change in the variables, that I probably won't be doing an interview with anybody. Thirdly, and finally, there's the INFJ. Why INFJ does not fit is because, again, I see myself very much in the NE camp. I do not have that NI knowing. And in fact, you can see this just from the sorts of discussions that I invite here with saying it's fine to question my type. I like to reflect on what you're seeing and maybe I'll learn something. INFJs, I think, would not be so open to this idea because they already know the type that they are. NI users in general, I think, would not be so open to this because they know what type they are. They do not want it to be questioned. They do not want to have contradiction because then that's a lot of NITI garbage that they have to wade through to realize or to double check and recheck, and I think it's just a whole lot more work, whereas for me it's play. So INFJ came up from folks who were having a conversation about me, and I didn't want to jump into that because it seemed inappropriate for me to comment. I was just a fortunate observer and just greatly appreciated that people were having these sorts of discussions. So the other reason why I'm not INFJ is simply that I know INFJs, and we are just so different in the way that we approach things. We are two idealists, but we're looking at the same sorts of issues or problems, but then when we describe them to each other, it's almost like we enrich each other's perspective because we come at it so fundamentally differently. And I have someone else who's an INFJ with whom I work, who is where it's like that whenever we have a meeting together, we just end up taking up the entire time having these long rambling discussions into all sorts of different categories because our points of view are both in the same camp, yet fundamentally different in a way that is enlightening and intriguing to one another. So anyway, that one's maybe not as easy for me to describe, except to say INFJ has never resonated with me. I have never seen any of the functions that fit with what I'm doing. And so it would be hard for me to imagine other than the general confusion that's out there in the greater typology community between INFPs and INFJs. But I have never identified as an INFJ. They are, to me, intriguing, warm, mostly very morally upstanding, good, graceful aliens. So there you have it, the three types, ENFP, ISFJ, INFJ. Again, all of these are interesting to me, and I, for one, don't mind discussions of my type at all. I think that these sorts of things should be open to question everywhere and anywhere, but I know most people do not appreciate that and do not feel the same way. So I don't mind if people talk about me in that way, question type. I would like, however, to have a discussion rather than just someone saying, oh, no, you're an ISTJ, and then they take off without backing any of that, sort of a hit and run tactic. It's kind of a dick move. So anyway, that's what I've got for today. I hope that you're having a good day, evening, weekend, holidays, wherever you may be. And I may even shave the next time that we see each other again. Bye for now.